Hey, welcome to Social Media Hangout Time. I'm Janet Johnson, and I'm here with Kimmy, the salon owner, as
Hi,
well
everybody.
as our guest, Mike Brooks. And I want to introduce Mike Brooks properly here because I have been listening to his podcast for, I would say, probably at least 6 months, if not longer. And so I reached out to him because I love his content, and I'm excited to have him on the show. So welcome, Mike.
Well, thanks. It's nice to be here, and I appreciate the kind words. It's always nice to hear somebody's listening.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, let me give you a proper background. I want to read your bio. Obviously we know you have a podcast because we just talked about that, but talk about what your company is and what you do. Mike Brooks' company is Nuclear Chowder Marketing. And in a minute I'm going to ask him why he named it that, but there's probably a reason behind it. What he does is he helps small businesses with their online marketing. And they build websites, mobile apps, manage search, inbound marketing, social media. They have a very hands-on approach. And their mission is their client's success. He is a blogger, which I know he does a lot of blogging, and a podcaster and a speaker for hire. He also loves helping folks succeed. And if you listen to his show, it really stands out that he definitely is very helpful to the business owner. And he was an owner of a martial arts school for over 10 years. So he knows how hard it is to run a small business. He's been in the trenches, it sounds like. So welcome, Mike, and let's start with answering the question of why did you name your company Nuclear Chowder Marketing? There's a reason behind that.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons actually. I wanted, obviously, when you name your company, you want something that's going to stand out, and that's always, the kind of marketing I've always done is to try and stand out in a noisy crowd. When I first got into the martial arts school, we had a big competitor near us and another franchise school near us, so we were the really little guy and needed to make noise. So my style of marketing has always been, how can I make some noise and differentiate myself? So the name definitely differentiates myself. But when I first named my company, it was actually called Offline Marketing Online, which was a search optimized name, and it was one of those things I thought of because I started taking clients on while I was at the martial arts school, and it was just happenstance. One of my clients came in and said, and actually I tell the story a lot. If people listen to my podcast, it's my favorite. One of my favorite stories to tell is a client came in one day, a parent of a client, a student was at the front desk. He's talking to me, and he owned a business, and he said, I Googled martial arts in Brookfield last night, I Googled pizza in Brookfield. He was looking for pizza, and we came up number 1 or number 2. So he was like, I need to hire you to do that. So I started taking money from him. I had to figure out what's my business name, so I created the website Offline Marketing Online, and then that was my business name. It was really never meant to be a business name. So I pledged to myself that when I was going to eventually get an LLC and do it for real one day, and I kind of kept putting it off, and finally came to the decision in 2012 in the beginning of 2013 to actually rename the company to Nuclear Chowder Marketing. And when I knew I was going to get the LLC and do all the legal stuff to do that, I decided I want to get a name that's going to stand out in the crowd. And I started listing off names, and you could put all sorts of different things like higher cause marketing or impact marketing. So I started coming up with all these names that were kind of cliche names. Everything was taken. Everything already had a domain name. So I'm like, and literally every combination of one word and the word marketing was already taken. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I got frustrated. I was like, I'm going to come up with something ridiculous. And then I thought about it. I started listing words off on a page that meant something to me, and the words like atomic and nuclear and explosive. And then on the other side, I wanted 2 words, so I could have 3-word something marketing. And then I started listing off on another page other things that meant like pleasing. So I wanted something powerful but pleasing, and I was looking for that combination, delicious and explosive, and that's where nuclear and chowder. I'm from Connecticut. We're in the Northeast. clam chowder is popular up here. So
Got it.
I was
Got
like,
it.
it was one of the reasons I used to go to vacation on Cape Cod a lot, and the first thing I would do is get a bowl of clam chowder. So food is very important to me, sadly enough. So Nuclear Chowder Marketing, it was born, and it's like, what it is it's if you do a lot of local networking and you go to events, um, people are kind of in a haze. They're card collectors. They go, "Hi, nice to meet you. What do you do? Oh, you do this. I do this." So I knew that something like that would grab people's attention, and it does. It's a pattern interrupt. They look at it, they go, "Wait, what?" And they are in the moment at that moment. So that's long
Love
story.
it, love it. But that it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we can go back to Kimmy. Why is Kimmy, Kimmy with her green and pink hair, and she has her special thing, and she actually had a question she loves to ask the guests when we start. So
Hmm.
go ahead
Okay,
and ask.
Mike. All right, I have one question, and it is, have you ever been interviewed by a puppet?
Oh, many, many times.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
I've
so awesome.
mostly been interviewed by puppets. You mean metaphorically or realistically?
Realistically, do they have pink hair? No.
Okay, realistically, no, I haven't been interviewed by a puppet.
That's fun.
Oh, that's great. That's great. But kind of what you're talking about, it is a noisy world out there, and I do agree completely. And that's exactly what our show is about. Standing out in the crowded world of social media. So I love it that you had a different, and I do agree about that, the passing out cards. It's something that's they go nuclear. What? I bet. I'm sure you get that.
Oh yeah.
So that's great.
I mean, that was one of the main intentions, was to kind of get people's attention and stand out, and it works like a charm. People look at the card, and I don't even have a card in front of me, but it's very loud. It's orange. It's got green, very nuclear looking, right? So it sticks out like a sore thumb, and it has the same effect on everybody. They look at the card and they look away, and then they look at it again as like, oh wait, this is something different, and then they kind of smile and they go, what? And in that moment, they're paying attention, and to me, that's what marketing is all about: getting people to you got like 2 seconds to get people to pay attention to you, and then you've got to keep getting people to pay attention to you with everything you say. So it gets us off to a good start.
That's a great lead-in for, it's really giving them the wow factor. So as we talk about content creation, a lot of times people say they just don't believe in the value of, I have to blog. Why should I blog? And so can you talk a little bit about content creation and how important it is to a business owner?
Yeah, sure. You either tell your story or somebody will tell it for you, and that's what it comes down to. Content. The myth is that content is all of a sudden important. It's been important for hundreds of years, thousands of years maybe, going back to the beginning of, when the first caveman or cave woman drew a picture on the wall that showed how not to get eaten. We all tell stories. We, as people, are paying more attention when you hear a story. So, if I sit here, and I get on a whiteboard, start doing mathematical equations and statistics, eventually everybody's going to get bored. But if I tell a story, there's something about a story that people engage with and they become aware in that moment, and they follow. I think we're, as humans, and I don't know I know there's probably a clinical or psychological reason behind it, but we follow along with stories. We're evolved, or we're endowed with this ability to just learn from storytelling. So we've been doing it forever, and people have been hungry for it forever. It's just that the channels haven't been there. So, going back to the old days of marketing, you get a brochure, you get something in the mail, somebody has to reach out to you to somehow get your information. But what's always been the strongest way to get a new client? Always has been referrals. Like, if I tell you a story about my experience with a client or with a business, you're either going to not engage with that business if it was a bad story, or you're going to engage with that business because you trust me, so the trust is going to drip down to that person. So essentially, the power of creating this content for people has, again, always been there. You get a brochure, you go through it, you talk to people about it, but now it's all at your fingertips. I mean, and if you don't, again, I'm going to stress this, if you don't tell your story, somebody else will tell your story. They're going online, people are going online, they're Googling you, they're searching for you, they're asking their friends on social media, and they're going way deep into your content. So they just start with the search engine, right? They go and they Google you. And going back to the old days of Google, right? You go and you Google something and you take the first thing, and usually the first thing you were probably going to buy from that thing, you were less likely to go to the second page of Google. Now people know, they hear your business, they're going to go and they're going to Google your business name, and they've got pages and pages of content, whether you put it out there or whether you don't put it out there. There's stuff there on your business if your business exists, and they're going to go through and they're going to read it. So as a business, my question to you is, what do you want the story to be? Do you want it to be your own story, or do you want somebody else to tell it for you? We do want people to tell our story, of course. There's a place for that. We want good reviews. We want feedback from clients, but we don't want it to be out of our control. We want to be able to drive that narrative and explain why somebody should buy from us. So just from that perspective alone, I think content is so important for every business to create. They just leave it, they're leaving a giant hole open for their competitor if they don't do it.
That's true.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can, competition is the other thing. I mean, if everybody's now waking up to content online, so the bar is higher than it has ever been, and your competition is doing it. And if they aren't doing it, they're gearing up to doing it. And we see it if you Google things and you see that local people aren't doing content. What you will see is that the big guys are doing it. The big companies are starting to do it. They get it. They're creating, and they're doing it better than they have better tools. They have they have more resources. They have deeper pockets, so they can do video. They can do all sorts of things that we as small businesses can't do. So you're just opening the door for where I think Google and Facebook and all these things were such a great such a great thing for small businesses to kind of level the playing field. When big businesses start to get into it, that playing field is not going to be as level anymore. So they're going to come into it with all their tools. So you got to be there.
Do you find that even if you're referred to somebody, what's your thought on that? So let's say a business was referred to, use Kimmy's salon. So Kimmy was her salon was referred by somebody that was a happy client, but that person doesn't know anything about Kimmy's salon. Don't you think that they're probably going to look at possibly that, Google them, look at their Facebook page, look at their information online, even if they're referred in the first place?
Yeah, I think, I would answer that with a question. What do you do, and talking to everybody, what do you do when you are referred somebody? What do you do when you're thinking of getting somewhere? I mean, there's no longer just one way people are getting to, and I don't think that ever was the case. I think that's a myth. I just think there's so much resource available to people now that they're getting used to. The consumer is getting used to digging deep, and they're used to going and saying, you refer somebody to me, and the first thing I do is look up their website. And me as a consumer, I'm telling you as a consumer, you say, oh, you got to try out this pizza place. Well, I say, oh, Janet doesn't like the kind of pizza I like, so I better check out this pizza place. Or I just want to see their menu. It may not even be that I'm checking them out. I just want to see their menu. So I go and I Google that pizza place. And, we've all done it where you've been recommended something and they don't show up. Maybe there's a Yelp. The first thing is Yelp. What's the first thing that you think when that happens? I think, they don't have a website. They're not a real business.
Exactly. Or they have a horrible website, and I don't even want to do business with them because it's so bad. Especially I think about hotels, or I love if you're going to go stay somewhere to go look at the rooms ahead of time, see where you're going to stay, see what it's all about. And if they have a horrible website and can't represent that properly, you don't want to stay there.
Right. Well, I'll tell you.
Also, too, though, they could have a great website, but if there's no content around it, or nobody talking about the experience while they were there, I think that doesn't look very good either.
No. You know, we're human nature. We are learners, and this is probably some of that psychology of why we love stories. We want to learn, we want to grow, we want to fill our mind with things. It's just a natural human nature thing. So it's only natural that you're going to want to dig and learn and understand deeply about that thing. And speaking of travel, I'll tell you a story. Me and my wife just booked a trip to New York. I won this trip. I mean, we only live like, 40 miles from the city, but we won this thing to go in to see a Broadway show. And I've actually won it last year and didn't do anything with it because it's just a pain in the neck to book a Broadway show. I don't know if you've been to Broadway, but it's a pain in the neck. So we've just been putting it off, and we finally were like, we got to do it this summer. We picked a date, and she went and bought the tickets for the show, which is like ridiculous what they want for a Broadway show. But that's another story. We had to buy an extra ticket for my daughter, and the amount she spent on that ticket was what I would think like 4 tickets would be. But
wow,
it was like unbelievable. Like
Wow.
really, it's like okay. So anyway, here, I was totally uninterested in the details of it. I knew she was handling it, but once she booked it and it became a reality, I wanted to learn everything about it. And it was annoying to her. I'm like asking her, well, where's the theater? What street is it on? Where's the hotel? What is it? Okay, it's on Avenue of Americas. What's the cross street? I wanted to know all these details, like what are we going to do here, and what restaurant should we go to? And you start to want to know more. And now I'm looking at the show. I'm going to the show's website and I'm learning about the characters, who are the actors are, and what they've done. I mean, I'm going on this journey online because all of the information is available, and I want to learn more about it. Like that's anytime you buy something, you make a purchase, you want to, once you research it, that's one thing. Then you make your decision. You still want to learn more about that thing, and you're going and you're consuming content, and the content may lead you off in a different path. Like so, let's say I'm going to buy something and I'm excited to buy it from this place, but I go Google that place, I don't find a good website, and I start reading somebody else's story, and I bond with that other competitor. And then I start going, well, maybe I should buy it from them. I mean, it's so easy to get, go off the tracks, and maybe even that was a referral, and I already trust and like that person, but because somebody else got into my consciousness. I mean, we're so, it's so much easier these days. Humans will only give you like a split second of attention, whereas used to maybe give you a couple minutes of their attention. I mean, it's gotten so much faster and more furious online, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's very fast. Yes, exactly. So for small business, we were talking about. Can you talk a little bit about the focus of I loved it. I just heard you talk about the focus of doing the content and the importance of the content, the importance of putting your content out there versus doing the busy work of your business. Now, there's always work to do in your business. Obviously, when you're a small business owner, you have to balance, but the importance of the marketing piece in your business.
Right. Yeah, it's, and the way I define marketing may be different than the way some other people define marketing, so I'll talk about that first. I look at marketing as a mechanism for selling a product. And I think of it when I create marketing, I'm always trying to think of how is this helping me sell my product. And if you look at the Wikipedia definition of marketing, it's really all about communicating what your service or product does in order to sell your product or service. I mean, that's what the goal is, but I think a lot of people leave that ending off and just talk about the communication, especially marketing departments. They're not focused on selling, and I think marketers as a whole should be more focused on how this is selling my product. Now, that's not to say you should always be, hey, buy my stuff. The sales process is a process of networking, getting to know people, understanding their problems. It's a multi-step process, not necessarily blasting off buy my stuff messages. But you have to be in your marketing, I believe, always focused on how is this going to improve my bottom line. And when you have that paradigm, when that mind, that's on your mind all the time, you're going to operate your marketing a little bit differently. And you may do things, you may take things like, okay, maybe a podcast is not the best use of my marketing time. It's a critical thinking thing where you're like, is this going to help me sell my product? And I'm not picking on podcasting by any means. I just came to my mind because we're doing a podcast.
Sure.
But so that's the kind of methodology that I follow with what I'm doing with marketing. And going back to the martial arts school, it's like activities that drive the marketing and the selling of the school are activities that I should be practicing on a regular basis. And as we kept statistics on new students, that was our bar, right? New students and continuing students and sales of our pro shop, upgrades, we measured those things each month. And the more time I spent in my office doing whatever it was I was doing, and sometimes even that's marketing, the more those numbers were down. The more I was outside of my office and got out and did seminars and did talks, those key things that were marketing things that moved the process of somebody buying, the more the numbers went up. There's a correlation there. The more activity you do. So the more you sit and play with email, the less sales you make, and yes, you have to go and you have to do your email, you have to do certain things, but you have to do your accounting. But in the martial arts school, it was always when I coached businesses, you'd always hear that they're cleaning the school because the school smells, which is important, right? That's important for retention. You don't want to have a smelly school. But how much do you need to clean it? Should you be maybe out, putting cards on people's counters, meeting people? So, the guts of what you do every day should be geared towards marketing, because unless you're selling your services, unless you're moving your bank account forward, the profits of your business forward, you're not going to have a business for very long. Make sense? I don't know if I answered the question.
Mike,
go ahead, Kimmy.
I think that's true with, when you're getting out there, what you want to do is have people actually ask you, how can you help me? Versus us going and posting a message asking them to ask us. So by educating, people love to be educated. Once they're educated, maybe in a classroom where you have 40 people in there, they're going to start to know, like, and trust you. Then they will come to you for the sale versus you having to send them a coupon. You're just building that trust.
Exactly. I mean, really, we do business with those we know, like, and trust. And I know for my business, we do internet marketing services. So we want companies to hire us to build a website or do search engine optimization or social or whatever. So the best way I'm going to get clients is by doing a talk. So talking is an important part of how I'm going to get customers. You have to attack it from how can I help? You have to provide value first, and you have to be helpful first. You have to be genuine. But when you do that, so I'm trying to do those activities that are going to help me make the sale, and doing things like this help me because I make relationships when I do this, and I get referrals from those relationships when I do things like this. Doesn't always pan out, but that's fine. The more you do those activities, there's the accounting of that shows the more times you do these activities, the more money you make, the more customers you get. So the more I pick up the phone and follow up with a lead, the more customers I get, the more.
Yep, and then your customers start referring you, because
yes.
they're seeing you frequently and they like what you've done, and then that's really a powerful engine. If you focus on what you currently have in your database of your customers and ask them to help you with referrals, then that helps grow too.
Right, exactly.
And they can provide the content for you too, because like you said, some of the content is those testimonials are actually your best content out there, getting those testimonials. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the things that people have a problem with when it comes to content is, well, what do I write about? And talking to, if you don't know what to write about, go talk to your customers. They'll tell you what to write about.
Good point. Great point.
And you're doing something beneficial that's going to move your business forward because you're communicating with your customers, so you have a touch point. You have an opportunity to maybe solve a problem that they're having, or just to even show that you care about what's going on. Hey, I just want to call and talk to you and check in. What's going on in your business? And they say, oh man, I'm glad you called because I'm having this problem. Okay, now you're solving a problem, and in your back of your mind, and you put it in your back pocket that you got a piece of content. Because anytime somebody asks you a question, that's an opportunity to answer and provide content. And I know tons of people teach on this. It's not anything new, but it's amazing how many people don't do this. Is answer don't talk about what you want to talk about. Talk about what is going to answer a question for somebody or solve a problem for somebody. So, when your client says, I'm having this problem, guaranteed there are other people out in the world, in this planet, that are having the same problem. So.
That's true. And I do have a question on content. Since a lot of us, we read our content on our iPhones or iPads, it's not necessarily sitting in front of a computer. And I noticed one of the services you do is mobile apps.
Correct.
And can you talk a little bit about how does content work with a mobile app?
Sure. It's
okay.
Here's the thing with mobile. It's everything's mobile. Everything's moving towards mobile, and businesses that don't kind of recognize that at this point are at a disadvantage. So I'm kind of getting out there a lot these days and talking about the value of mobile and why business should be on mobile. So I don't want to preach too much about that, but I hope everybody realizes just how important it is to be on mobile. Now, when you're talking about an app or delivering content through an app, it's just an easy way to get in front of people. So if people are out there consuming content and you're trying to make it easy for them to consume content, a mobile solution, whether it's an app or a mobile website, is an easy way to put that content on demand right in front of them. I mean, they don't have to go looking for it. You're giving them an easy way to find it. They just push a button, there it is.
When you talk about mobile website, would that also be what you call a responsive website?
Yep. Yeah.
That's
well,
the same thing?
there's a difference. Responsive and mobile are two different things. So a responsive website might be your website, and it's set up to be responsive on a mobile device. So it's not necessarily a mobile website. A mobile website would be you go and you create your brand new, totally different mobile website. It has a deeper experience. It's made, from a mobile point of view, it's made for the mobile phone. It's not it's not made for the web, right? Makes sense? So like I make a WordPress blog, it's made for the web, but then I add that response. I add a plugin to make sure it's responsive, or a theme that makes sure it's responsive. It's going to look good on a mobile, but it's not necessarily made for a mobile device. I prefer a website that, mobile. I prefer my mobile website to be a mobile website, adding a different experience, putting all those important things right up front that somebody wants on a mobile website.
Would you suggest that? What would you suggest for a small business that doesn't necessarily have a lot of funds to create something? I mean, is just going with the first one, the responsive, the way to go, and then maybe add on, or is it cost-wise?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's tools out there to help. There's plugins and themes that can make your site responsive. So I think that's the number one most important thing, right? Is to make sure that your site's responsive. If you do nothing else, make sure that your site is responsive. There's debate whether that's going to hurt you or help you. Google, part of Google's algorithm now, we know, is the mobile experience. They want to show, they're going to rank you according to how your mobile experience, it's part of the ranking. I don't want to say that's, I don't want to make people think, ooh, I got to run out and do that because it's going to hurt my Google rankings. It's not as simple as that. It's like one thing out of hundreds of other
thousands.
things.
Exactly.
So I don't like to hype things up like that and get people all freaked out about their search. But we know that, that a lot of searches that are happening are mobile, and we can come up with statistics. I can share with you statistics about mobile searches, but it's not. I don't want to look at it on an aggregate. Think about it for your business. If you're a destination business like a restaurant, you darn well better have a good mobile experience, and your investment in mobile should be higher than, say, an insurance guy's And it just depends on that industry and what the users are expecting at this point.
That
And
makes
things,
sense. Yeah.
things may shift, things may change, and things change over time. But
Mm-hmm.
you're a restaurant. I mean, if you look at like mobile searches on Valentine's Day this year, it was unbelievable. Like crushing it, and it's going up and up and up each year. So when I'm out and I'm driving and I want a restaurant to go to on the fly, or even if even at home, I always go to my mobile phone to search for a restaurant. And the experience has to be there. If I can't see their menu, I can't even, I can't see their content good on the mobile device. So should a restaurant invest in a responsive site over, putting up the extra money to go create a mobile-friendly site? I think not. I think they better come up with the money to invest in mobile. If you're a business, you got to treat it like a business, and you have to invest in the things you have to invest in. I don't mean go out and spend 10 grand to make a mobile app, but you got to take it seriously, because it's just the way it is, and there's certain things you can't say no to. Back when I first started in the martial arts school, if you weren't in the yellow pages, you weren't going to get phone calls. So you had to be in there, and you had to come up with the money to do it if you wanted the phone to ring. And that changed, and you have to invest in the things that are going to make your phone ring. I think a lot of people get caught up in having to do all these little other things, but you have to investigate it as for your unique business. Like, for a salon, I think you need a mobile app is an important thing for a salon. Because you have certain functionality that is going to increase your bottom line, and your clientele is demanding it. So if you don't do it, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, no matter how much it costs.
And you're putting yourself at an advantage also from the other perspective, where many of your competition might not be doing it. So
Exactly.
You could put yourself ahead of the competition.
Exactly. By the way, I had like just if I seemed like I was a little distracted, it was because I was about to had a spider crawling on me. I hate spiders, so I had to go spider hunting in the middle of talking about that.
We've had many events during these, don't believe me.
Oh, that's
When you sneezed one day, all her hair was in front of her face, so there's...
Yeah. Like, I don't even know where he went. I think I got him, but like, I'm a little skeeved right now. Like,
don't worry. Well, that's great. Well, and for those of you listening, Mike's outside, so
right,
that
you
makes
can see that. Yeah.
it makes a little difference. So, well, good. Well, we love. Now, there's listeners. There's going to be listeners, and there's going to be watchers. And for the people that are listening and watching, we'd like to give our audience something that they can take action on that's fairly simple, that within the next 24 hours. So can you give us some advice in the next 24 hours what they can do?
Sure. I think the best thing that every company can do is go make sure that their marketing messages are dialed in for conversions. Conversion being that an action is going to be taken. So what are the conversions along the line? And this is maybe a little more complex, but what are the conversions that you want to happen? So when somebody Googles you, what do you want them to do? You want them to click on your link. What do you want to happen when they come to your website? You want a strong headline on your website that really gets them to continue reading. You want a good call to action. You want them to be motivated to do the next step. Whatever you want that action to be, that's the conversion. So going through and just doing an analysis of your own marketing, making sure that your marketing messages are strong, I think is one of the most important things we can do. People spend too much time going, what's this next thing I can do? What's this thing I can do? Get back to basics. Go make sure your headlines are strong. Make sure you're doing all those little things, like your phone number is on the website where people can see it. Making sure check your mobile website. Look at your experience on a mobile device and see what's going on, and just assess your website. And you will see things that pop out at you that go, wow, maybe that headline could be a little stronger, or maybe I should change the call to action. These are basic things that can really, really help. So just an analysis of how your marketing is doing on a fundamental basis. All these tools that we have available to us, Facebook, Twitter, all this stuff that's out there. At the end of the day, it's all just marketing that matters. It's the old school, old-fashioned, how's this headline going to make people read on or do what I want them to do? So that's what I would recommend.
Love it. Love it. Going back to the basics. Back to the basics. Back to the basics. Yeah, yeah.
I do it myself. You know, every now and then I go, man, I gotta get back to basics. You know.
I freaked myself out the other day by looking at my website and not realizing it was on a mobile device, which I don't typically do. And I was like, oh, like it was messed up more than I would have ever expected, you know, and so I had to go in and fix it. So just even revamping and looking, you got to remember that mobile device piece too is so important. So yeah. We're all guilty of it, absolutely.
Right.
So Kimmy, I'm going to have you finish up.
Yep. And so, Mike, let me ask you this. Where can people find you and your products? How would you like them to connect with you?
Well, sure. I mean, they could go to my website is nuclearchowder.com or nuclearchowdermarketing.com. And I have my blog, my podcast, pretty much all over the place. But if you go to my website, you can see how you can get in touch with me there. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your time, Mike. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.